I just wrapped up another soul-sucking shift at the office, the clock striking 2 a.m. as I peeled myself from the chair. Exhausted, I craved the comfort of my bed as I stumbled towards my car for the 30-minute drive home. The road stretched out ahead, a ribbon of darkness under the starless sky. Halfway through, the distant glow of blinking lights caught my eye. Roadblocks loomed ahead, an unexpected barricade on the desolate road. Confusion etched across my tired face. This wasn't here when I drove to work earlier. I pulled to a stop, my headlights revealing an eerie scene. No construction, no workers, just blinking lights and a haunting silence. The darkness swallowed everything beyond, and a chill crawled up my spine. Alone on that stretch of road, I felt like an intruder in a ghost town. Just as I considered turning back, shadows emerged from the blackness. 5 masked figures clad in black sprinted towards my car, their intentions shrouded in darkness. Panic gripped me, fingers fumbling to lock the doors. The silent assailants reached my car, fists pounding on the windows without a word. Frozen in shock for what felt like an eternity, I snapped into survival mode. My trembling hands found the car compartment, retrieving a gun. I aimed it at the closest man, and in that heartbeat, they scattered into the night like shadows fleeing from the dawn. Heart pounding, I spun the car around, tires screeching against the pavement. Fear propelled me back to the city lights. With trembling hands, I dialed the police, recounting the surreal encounter. 10 minutes later, 2 patrol cars sped towards the scene. From that night on, the graveyard shift was a chapter closed in my life. I couldn't shake the image of those masked figures lurking in the dark, waiting for an unsuspecting traveler. The road home became a haunting reminder of the night I narrowly escaped a fate I still can't fully comprehend.
We were a bunch of buddies on the ultimate road trip, cruising through America from the frozen north of Canada to the sun-soaked streets of Mexico. It was all laughs and good times until we hit the stretch from Denver to Santa Fe, a desolate road that felt like it stretched on forever. Late at night on US 85, we spotted a car pulled over with its emergency lights blinking like a desperate cry for help. Feeling like good persons, we decided to pull over and lend a hand. As we approached, we noticed something odd. There was no one around. No distressed faces. No stranded travelers. The car sat there, unlocked, with the keys still in the ignition. Confused and uneasy, we called the police, providing them with the plate number. The dispatcher's voice trembled as they instructed us to get back in our car, lock the doors, and wait for the police. 10 agonizing minutes passed, the darkness around us intensifying our fear. When the police arrived, they combed through the abandoned vehicle and searched the area with flashlights. One officer approached us and explained the chilling truth. They had been chasing reports of this very car for a while. Emergency lights, unlocked doors, keys in the ignition. Every time they responded, the car vanished. Instead, they discovered another vehicle nearby, empty. The officer warned us that it was a trap, a sinister ploy to lure in unsuspecting good persons. People who stopped might never be seen again. The police escorted us to the nearest hotel, where we spent a restless night haunted by the sinister possibilities of what could have been. By morning, the joy of our road trip had evaporated, replaced by a deep-seated fear. We decided to turn the car around, heading home with a newfound understanding that sometimes the open road conceals horrors that even the bravest dare not face. The road trip dreams faded, replaced by the stark reality that our wanderlust had led us to the edge of a darkness we never knew existed.
It was a late Saturday night, and I'd spent hours playing designated driver for the party crowd, helping tipsy folks stumble their way back home. As the night wore on, I figured it was time to call it quits. But just when I thought my side hustle was done for the night, another booking popped up on my Uber app, a 15-minute drive, nothing unusual. I pulled up to the location, and that's when things took a dark turn. 2 masked dudes were gripping onto a girl, her white dress stained with blood, and she had this look of sheer terror in her eyes. Fear hit me like a punch in the gut, and I was ready to peel out of there. But before I could hit the gas, one of the masked men sprinted towards my car, gun pointed straight at me. They all climbed in, the girl, the two masked creeps, and me, trembling behind the wheel. I asked them what the hell they wanted, but they just told me to follow the Uber destination. The guy with the gun made it clear. No questions, no games. Driving through the night, the barrel of the gun stayed trained on me while the poor girl sobbed in the backseat. We arrived at the requested spot, and they hauled her out of the car, taking my phone along with them. She begged for help, but the threat of that gun kept me frozen. I sped to the nearest police station, my hands shaking as I relayed every bone-chilling detail to the officers. The urgency in their eyes mirrored my fear. They sent 2 patrol cars to the supposed destination. But after a thorough search, they found nothing, just an empty, ominous silence. That night marked the end of my Uber driving days. I never picked up another passenger, haunted by the chilling memory of a ride that went far beyond just a fare.
It was one of those nights when the darkness swallowed everything on the country road. No other cars in sight, just me and the hum of the engine. Suddenly, a jolt shook the car, and the unmistakable hiss of a flat tire pierced the silent night. With a sigh, I pulled over, determined to fix it and get back on the road. As I opened the trunk to grab the spare, a chill ran down my spine. There, in the inky darkness, stood a tall man in dark clothes, hands tucked in his hoodie, face shrouded in shadows. Fear clawed at my chest. His silent stare sent shivers down my spine. I moved cautiously, fearing that any sudden gesture might trigger something sinister. With every glance back, he inched closer. Panic set in, and I mustered the courage to ask what he wanted. No response, just that haunting stare. I focused on changing the tire, stealing glances to ensure he didn't get any closer. As I finished, I darted into the car and sped away, glancing in the rearview mirror. To my horror, he stood there, waving goodbye with an unsettling grin. I raced home and spilled the eerie encounter to my husband, who armed himself and decided to confront the man. Returning to the scene, the man was nowhere in sight. Relief washed over me, but as my husband got back into the car, there he was, still staring at me. I hesitated, but something stopped me from pointing him out. We drove home in silence, the unspoken understanding that this road held a darkness we couldn't comprehend. I never dared to drive it at night again, haunted by the memory of that man and the questions that lingered in his chilling gaze.
A lot of people who drive for a living or have done balls-to-the-wall cross-country drives can tell you about the running shadows. The first time I saw them, I was on the tail end of 12 straight hours of driving. I was driving through the middle of nowhere in the desert at night. Very little light from the sky, no man-made lights even on the horizon. Just the pitiful cone from my truck's headlamp, and being in the middle of the desert, it pretty much only lights up the road ahead. Nothing above ground level to catch the light. As I'm barreling along, I start to see shadowy figures running alongside my truck out of the corners of my eyes, on 2 legs and 4. All I can think about is the creepy stories you read online about shit that lives out in the desert, or the Asian ghost stories, where if you don't acknowledge the spirit, it can't harm you. So I've got my eyes glued to the road, refusing to let them flicker off to the side. I rolled my windows up and cranked up the volume on my radio. Drove like that for probably an hour and a half until they slowly petered out roughly 15 minutes outside of a little one in light town. I've had people try to carjack me. People try to rob me after I pull over to render aid. People jump out at me on a twisty mountain road, you name it. But nothing matched that level of fear the first time I saw them. Felt like my spine was rippling like a ribbon in a wind, trying to jump clear out of my back and hide under the seat.